Escape room workers of Reddit, what's the most absurd thing players have done? I interviewed for a job at an escape room. They told me that one of their standard instructions you must tell every group is to not stick things in electrical outlets because too many people did it. What's fucked up is, I went to an escape room in LA where one of the puzzles was literally to stick a fork in a socket. Everyone told me I was insane when I suggested it. But two of the prongs were folded back and there was fake soot around the fake outlet. I did it and boom, gave us the next clue. I thought it was super stupid though. Why risk people learning that behavior and trying it elsewhere? Had a group come in, I noticed they had been drinking a little, but seemed mostly fine. So I let them into the room and start the clock. They were just wandering around. At the half-an-hour mark they were laying on the floor and rolling around. They didn't do any harm to the room. I don't remember if they even solved one puzzle. When I let them out after an hour they claimed it was fun. But they didn't really do anything? And did they remember it the next day? I don't know. I once had a group of drunk guys go in and they ran through their allotted hints pretty quickly. They asked for another hint and we said over the speakers that they were out of hints. One of the guys threatened to start taking off his clothes until we gave another hint. Edit, for everyone asking, we didn't even have to give him the extra hint. His friends chilled him out and ended up finding the next clue pretty shortly after that. In the Netherlands there is this prison escape room where everyone is a prisoner and you have to escape prison. It is done in an actual ancient prison. There are about 300 participants and 85 actors, mostly prison guards and some prisoners. They have over 15 storylines which you can follow and there are other inmates, actors, which will lead those storylines and send you one quests. Coming back to the question, at the beginning they warned everyone that no physical contact is allowed because during the first time people would actually threat each other to get money and guards have been attacked. Also they had to warn people that you weren't supposed to try climbing the 50 feet high prison wall. Mate worked at an escape room and he told me that some guys tried to smash a hole in the wall to get out because it was an Alcatraz themed room. Lifted up all the tiles on the ceiling. I had to wonder exactly what clue brought them to that conclusion. Nothing said up, ceiling, above. Yet every single tiles was down and, to their credit, piled in a corner. One guy pissed on the wall, thinking the plaster was snow. At the escape room that I worked in we had this horror-themed room. In the room there was a real HVAC breaker panel with a big red lever and huge text saying danger, high voltage / death. Given the theme of the room was horror, I thought it was part of the game and the danger sign added to the theme. Nope, turns out it was an actual functioning high voltage switch. It got boarded up and covered before we officially opened the room. At an escape room near me they had a group of lads on a stag do. These guys got very drunk and during the escape room, thought they could escape via the sewers. They managed to rip out the manhole cover which was bolted down into concrete. This cover is now permanently broken as it's too expensive to fix, they said. Advised us to not escape via the sewers. One time, a group was trying to figure out the code to a locked compartment. So this huge guy in the group decided this was a waste of time and tried to rip off the compartment door with his bare hands. He was almost successful, but we stopped him before he could do further damage to the door. He didn't understand what was wrong. Another one happened where a group were handcuffed and they couldn't find the key. The game master was trying to give them clues to find the key but they still couldn't find it. So one group member thought it would be best to use his leg. There was a table in the room with some items on it. He proceeded to knock over all the items with one kick. That group didn't win. I don't work at one but my co-worker went to one last year and his story was hilarious. He's a really serious guy from Boston, got talked into going to one with his wife and a few old friends that had come down for vacation. He said as soon as they walked in he saw a broom that looked completely out of place so he grabbed it. He thought they'd need it at some point. They made it out of the first room. They go to the second room and he's still got the broom. He swears it was just too out of place to not be part of the puzzle at some point. They make it through the second room. The third room, they get stuck. They're reading the clues over and over and he gets fixated on the broom while everyone else is searching the room. He's looking it over up and down, checking the handle for markings, mind you he has terrible near-sight vision, and checking the bristles. Time's running out and he's arguing with his wife at this point that the broom has the final clue. Time runs up, they walk out and the crew is just dying laughing at him. Someone left the broom by mistake, nothing more, nothing less. He carried that damn broom through 3 rooms. He got a good laugh about it later but he was embarrassed at the time. It was a great story he told the next morning at work. A group came in that disassembled some of the furniture, a bed and a desk, ripped some of the wallpaper off the walls and pulled the heads off some stuffed animals. I went to one where there were 3 identical rooms which teams competed in at the same time. If you finished you then got to watch and listen to the other teams. Our team did pretty well and we got to watch the other 2 teams try to complete it. Anyway, there was this one lock which was a number combination and you solved it by finding some sheet music in a book, with 5 notes on it, which corresponded to numbers. The piece was entitled The Key or something similar so you knew you needed it for the lock. Anyway this other team instead of converting to numbers and putting in the combination chanted this 5-note tune at the lock. When it did not work they tried again, then someone else tried. This went on for 10 minutes and got louder and louder. Eventually the game master stepped in and told them it was not going to work. Apparently they were the only team ever to do that. Not an escape room worker, but second time I went to one the owner told me that once a group decided to smash all the locks because they found a hammer, on which a clue is written. They had to replace all locks and it is now a toy hammer. I'd like to say those people were morons but when we found it the same idea was discussed in our group. Not sure if this counts. I did an escape room with a group of friends. At the end, you found a flash drive which was supposed to be plugged into a computer. We opened the document and there were instructions to print. We got print, and the printer gave us an out of ink error. We assumed this was part of the game and started looking for a magenta cartridge. Then an employee slipped in the room, replaced the cartridge, and told us to hit print again. Apparently it was not part of the game. They just ran out of ink. I feel kinda bad about the time our group unscrewed half the pictures on the wall using a paper clip, since none of us had the sense to think that maybe the pictures being screwed down was a sign we weren't supposed to look behind them. Edit. To elaborate, we managed to crack the combination lock to a drawer which had a jar of paper clips in it, to which our reaction was do we have to pick a lock, at first, and then hey, I think these fit perfectly into the screws but on the walls. Turns out, the actual purpose of the paper clips was to make a chain to dangle into a tube to pick up a key, can't remember if we had a magnet or a hook to help, which we discovered after looking behind the one picture in the room not screwed down and finding the code to the combination lock on the drawer below the first one. There was an escape room by me that had a terrorist-themed room. You get kidnapped and locked in a room with a bomb on the door. To up the realism, your host was dressed to fit the role of kidnapper and would come over the radio for hints in persona. Eventually the cops would start coming over the radio to guide you out of the room. Anyway, someone walking by the escape room saw people getting kidnapped and called the actual police. The police came by, and the escape room workers explained, but the actual police wanted to confirm with the people in the room. They knocked on the door and said Salt Lake City Police, open up, and the group responded we can't because there's a bomb strapped to the door. Luckily it ended well with everyone laughing afterwards. Not terribly ridiculous but me and the husband love them and wanted to share our love of them with our family. When we got out of the escape room, the super amazing nuclear explosion room in Chattanooga, Tennessee, the room operator was cracking up laughing. I guess at one point in order to get keys or clues my over-enthusiastic husband had picked up my 8-year-old nephew by the ankles upside down and was shoving him in barrels. I had no idea he was doing this, but the operator was dying. Obligatory, not a worker, just done a lot of escape rooms and chatted with the staff. These are the dumbest people I've been told about. One of the rooms is based on Jumanji and has a waterfall with real water in it. Enough people have tried to drink the water that they had to tell people not to in their opening spiel. One of the rooms has a bunch of museum-style display cases with glass covering the top with different puzzles inside. One of has sand in it and small holes in the top. Someone tried to tip the display case over and get the sand out so they could read the hidden message. When the game master told them to stop doing that, she stopped momentarily and then tried again 2 minutes later. The game master told her if she did it again she'd be kicked out, and the woman said, "Just making sure you're paying attention." People constantly try to pull up floorboards or tear down wallpaper in the horror-themed room, even after they're told there's nothing hidden there and warned not to do it or they'll get charged for the damage. Hey, one I can answer. Kinda. I was the dude in the room. It was my first 10-year-old brother's birthday party and children are dumb AF. It was themed around a nuclear power station that was gonna blow up the town, and essentially what happened was we had an hour to complete 3 rooms. We took 45 minutes to get through the first because kids kept throwing stuff around. One guy got freaked out thinking it was real and pressed the button to end the room. Thankfully it didn't work or something, and my dad shouted at him, so he took a tantrum and fucking locked himself in a drawer. Then because the kids can't organize shit, we had to hunt for the most stressful 3 minutes of my life for the key. And then we got through and it was sorta okay from there, cause a lot of kids up and left the room. Never again. Never, ever, again. My dad owns an escape room in a small town in Norway, and the weirdest thing someone has done is probably trying to punch the camera. The guy was like 150 centimeters tall and couldn't reach it. After trying 3 times to punch it, he gave up. Attended a Saw series themed escape room with my so and some randoms since the room required 4 to 6. We get locked in to start, chained to fixtures like the dark room scene from the movie. Lights are off. As soon as the thing starts, one of the randos says, "I have a gun in case we need to shoot someone." I thought he was joking. We all did. Eventually the lights turn on and he pulls out a real gun and sits it in the sink and says, "I'm leaving the gun in the sink in case something happens to me. It's for everyone." I work at an escape room and too many customers come to play and then put the torches in their mouth. Disgusting. We've had a couple get in the room and start to get frisky instead of playing the game. Had one who was super drunk and just started to piss in the corner of one room. Another lady who had been drinking who decided to stay in the room and puke everywhere and then put props over the top of piles of puke instead of leaving the room to go to the toilet. And many others. There's been a few. The idiots initially tried cutting through their chains. They finally worked it out and one of them sawed through their leg and shot the other with the revolver we'd left in there.